The one, the only, the spec that does well even if your grandma's playing it. The spec that people say it has 3 bones to its rotation. But to those people I say, I do more damage than you, bruh. Stay tuned for the talents, gear, essences, rotation, and a lot more for the king of melee DPS to kick some butt and take some names in raids and dungeons. We make a lot of videos, and if you like our stuff, consider checking out our other channel, This Is Living. After you finish this video, of course. We do lifestyle type videos, personal development talks and experiences, and overall good vibes. Don't worry, it's not going to take away from our WoW channel, but rather put out a more human side of Marcelian&Online. Anyway, you are here for the talents, so check it out. On the first row, actually all 3 are viable and all 3 build into different builds, which we will eventually cover as we progress through this video. Blind Fury is the kind of default one. It's the easiest to use, has massive AoE damage as a burst, and you might have been using it so far throughout the expansion. It's a simple choice to make, transforming your I-beam into a massive Fury generation as well, essentially giving you a full Fury bar, meaning you really want to use this when you are at the lowest Fury amount. Demonic Appetite is becoming the most used in all scenarios, specifically tied with the Furious Gaze Azerite trait to reduce the cooldown of your I-beam, giving you more demon procs, which we will talk about in a minute. It seems to perform the best out of all 3, but might take a bit of practice to play properly. You will need to actively seek out the soul fragments to generate and consume. Sometimes you might want to stack them and consume them at a specific time. The playstyle can change and adapt with your encounter. Fellblade is a good Fury generator that essentially adds another button to your rotation. It works in tandem with a specific talent on the next row, and due to efficiency, these 2 should be used together. Speaking of the devil, the second row brings 2 options. Immolation Aura is the easiest and simpler to use option here. You pop it, you deal AoE damage, and generate Fury. It was a staple up until recently and still sees more play than the other option. The other one being Demon Blades, which we mentioned earlier. Demon Blades replaces your Demon's Bite, removing it from your bars and making your auto attacks generate Fury and deal extra damage. What this does in combination with Fellblade is to provide you with a different way to generate your resource, and between the passive 60% chance per melee attack to gain more Fury and Fellblade generating a flat amount, you have a decent resource gain, but more importantly, it frees up a lot of global cooldowns you would have otherwise spent on Demon Bite spams. Third row, very simple. Trail of Ruin is the best option on the row so far in terms of DPS output and rotational improvements. Combine this with another talent that alters your Blade Dance, and Blade Dance will become a must-use ability even in single target. Fell Barrage is a niche talent that provides you with high AoE burst damage when it's available. Over the course of a dungeon or raid, it won't perform as well, but if there are specific ad phases or packs that need to die extra quick, you could use this if you can combine it with a big haste proc trinket, but essentially it accomplishes the same thing as the Meme Beam Essence. Next up, we have the defensive row, and although you can pick whatever you want, we recommend you take Netherwalk as one of the best defensive cooldowns in the game. It makes you immune and provides you with a burst of movement speed. The damage immunity is straightforward, while the movement speed allows you to get out of the danger zone way quicker. But more importantly, it gives you the option to deal and soak certain mechanics that were either not intended to be soaked or would kill you otherwise. Soul Rending would be the simple option, giving you Leech, so self-sustain over the course of a fight. If you don't need to be fancy with mechanics and are confident you can dodge dangerous mechanics, Soul Rending will make your healer life easier, almost not having to heal you at all. The fifth row has one option again, and that is First Blood, making your Blade Dance way cheaper and deal extra damage to the first target hit. This is the talent that I mentioned earlier that completes your Blade Dance. The AoE ability deals more single target damage bit. Not overly complicated here, just remember that Blade Dance will hit like a truck after this. The sixth row is a utility row with a bunch of CC options. The one you pick is down to you and what your group needs. If you went with Demonic Appetite, Unleash Power becomes really good. You maximize your resource conversion into damage by taking away the fury cost of Chaos Nova and its cooldown as well, so it can generate more soul fragments overall. Master of the Glaive makes your Throw Glaive skill apply as slow and allowing you an extra charge on the skill. Fell Eruption is a straightforward single target stun, usually working in dungeons to stop cast or general dangerous mobs. Last bro used to be a playstyle defining bro, and it still is actually, but Demonic is the only good choice here by a large margin. It also makes Demon Hunter what it is today, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see this baseline in the future. After you finish channeling I-Beam, you get 8 seconds of metamorphosis empowering your abilities. Now, talents like Blind Fury and Demonic Appetite make more sense, so rejoice you bastards! You have some playstyle options now as opposed to previous patches in BFA. There are two ways to approach gearing, or at least two that we will explore. One is to sim your character. Sim every goddamn ring and every gem if you are interested in doing the most amount of damage possible. This might be something that you don't want to do. Then you have to remember that versatility is at the top, with crit second followed by haste, and agility and mastery close to the bottom. If you have a specific best-in-slot Azerite trait stacked 3 times, haste will be where it is now in terms of importance, since those traits will give you massive amounts of it, making it less valuable to be stacked even further with gear, hence why crit is higher. If you don't have those traits, which we will explore in a bit, haste will be almost equal to versatility. This is the simplest explanation I can give without forcing you to sim, hopefully showcasing how much your stats can change in importance once you start to put some gear on your Demon Hunter. As a last example, my stats look like this, which is a bit different than what I just said. Again, trying to make a point here, and the point is, go back to school and study advanced mathematics to understand how to play a goddamn video game, or get minimal wage as a school teacher, whatever works. The stats help you with your gear choices, although eye level might still be better even with worse stats after a while, and it's difficult to say how much eye level you can sack to get your best secondary stats. But this is not something you need to do with trinkets, since there are a few that the community has figured out and tested to be the best for now, and might prove very useful for when you start your 8.3 journey. For raiding, you want Ash Veins, Razor Coral, and Dribbling Inkpot, which seem to be the best in slot for a lot of melee DPS that focus on crit in some way. The raw damage output is amazing, but do keep in mind you want to save Ash Vein Coral stacks as much as possible to make your Inkpot take a guaranteed crit, thus the combination is worth it. And if you do, well, be prepared to see numbers you won't see anywhere else in the game. In dungeons, you can still take the raid trinkets if you have them, but not every key pusher raids as well. As such, trinkets like Deadeye Spyglass, Lustrous Plumage, and Electromental in a Jar are very good options to aim for. Not the only good ones of course, but they do seem to see the most play at the high end where people want to do as much damage as possible. What? Enough about trinkets? Let's check the Azerite traits because those are the best thing ever added to WoW? Well, okay, you crazy bastard. The builds don't differ almost at all between raids and dungeons, since the traits Demon Hunter has don't really address either content specifically or have outcomes specifically tailored to such. Furious Gaze is one of the traits we mentioned earlier. You stack this 3 times and it gives you massive amounts of haste every time you finish an I-Beam. Without this trait, you need to compensate the lack of haste with the rest of your gear, which is not ideal. So try and get this stack 3 times as much as you can. Chaotic Transformation is a one-off, meaning you really want it for the reset effect. This changes your opener a bit and we will talk about it later in the video, but essentially it means you will be doing a lot more burst damage up front or when you pop meta, which can be really sought after. Eyes of Rage is another one-off you want, and this is also one we mentioned in a bit earlier. You want this at all times, especially with Demonic Appetite. You don't need the talent to make it work, but you do need the trait to make the talent work. Stacking it gives your I-Beam stupid damage, but often comes at a sacrifice of Furious Gaze. The last spot is usually filled by a strong generic stat trait or traits like Revolving Blades. You can play with the last option as you see fit. As for secondary traits, Overwhelming Power would still be your best DPS choice even with all the haste you might already have. Resounding Protection would be your most ideal defensive choice, but really any defensive will work well considering they pretty much all scale with versatility. There are other more specific traits that can have conditions and drawbacks to be used which perform well on paper, but take into consideration you being very comfortable with the spec and encounter. And if you are, go for them. Since we want to keep the video on the basics side, we are sticking on the tried and tested options that cannot fail you. One such option is the notification bell thingy once you subscribe to the channel. What? You didn't subscribe? Well, how can you enable those notifications if you didn't subscribe, man? It's like I'm running a circus here or something. Jesus. Oh, relax, don't go anywhere. We still have essences to talk about. Plus your mom. The essence options are very simple mostly, and usually they come naturally unlocked for Havocs as they play the game. Ideally, you want the recommendations we give you to be at rank 3, and if not, use the high rank options you have instead. With that being said, when raiding, or if you want high single target boss damage, go with condensed life force in your major. Unless the 8.3 nerfs affected too much, this is looking to be one of the strongest majors in this context. For minors, you have a few options to choose from. Crucible of Flame and Conflict and Strife are fairly straightforward. Crucible is raw damage, while Conflict is raw versatility. Both good. You can replace them with Purification Protocol for AoE scenarios and certain bosses that count towards aberrations, even more so in Nyalota it seems, or Memory of Lucid Dreams, especially if you are running the Fellblade and Demon Blaze talent combo. In dungeons, Essence of the Focusing Iris will give you the most AoE burst damage you can get in the game, and overall the most AoE damage period. For minors, Purification Protocol for the same reasons as in Raid, mostly because it works well in the environment, and Conflict and Strife as your other minor. There are other minor options to play with, and a lot factor in the difficulty of the key, the composition of your party, what tank and healer you have, and so on. The reason I'm saying this is because you might see people playing different things, and that's not because they are better or worse, but thankfully some have situation usage, which is how things should be across the board. When doing a standard opener, you want to immolation and pre-pot a few seconds before the pull first. Then Demon's Bite to reach 30 Fury unless you are there already. I-Beam, Dead Sweep, then Meta. If you have Chaotic Transformation, you can Dead Sweep again, here, and I-Beam again and proceed to the general rotation. The main condition you have to meet before using I-Beam is that you have enough Fury to populate your demonic windows with as many Dead Sweeps and Annihilations as possible. If you run Blind Fury, you actually want to cast I-Beam with the least amount of Fury since it generates a full Fury bar anyway. With everything else, you want to build as much Fury first, ideally without delaying I-Beam at all. While in the standard rotation, your priority sees I-Beam at numero uno, followed by Dead Sweep or Blade Dance depending if you are in meta or not. After that, make sure you have Immolation up. Fellblade here if you took it. Annihilation or Chaos Strike next. Fill in with Demon's Bite, or if you have Demon Blaze talented, throw glaives once you have really nothing else to do. You could also Fell Rush if you're at 2 charges, but this can take you out of melee range if you don't geometry the boss hitbox correctly, but if you do, it's better than glaive. The rotation doesn't change in AoE scenarios since your top abilities in terms of importance do top AoE damage as well. The rotation can have a few advanced differences here and there and some in-depth nuances to maximize DPS. For that, we recommend checking the Fellhammer Discord channel where you can find a lot more advanced resource from mythic level demon hunters. And since we are here, before moving to the consumables, a huge shout out to our very own Patreon, Lego, who is a mythic Havoc Demon Hunter that provided us with some insight, and even more so, a shout out to Kibo, the author of the Wowhead Havoc Guide and an admin of the Fellhammer Discord. He helped us with feedback and proofreading and overall Havoc understanding. You can find him on his Twitter handle _KIB0 for Kibo or on his twitch.tv/KIB0 for Kibo. The argument we had at the stat section applies here as well. You should sim if you're interested to get the most out of your character. Otherwise, go with a Chord of Versatility for your rings, Versatile Dark Opal for your sockets as well, and these will be probably the most used and easiest to change. Your weapons can have the Deadly Navigation and Versatile Navigation enchants, especially on higher item level. Use Agility Flask, obviously, like what? Are you going to use Stamina Fool? As for the potion, Unbridled Fury is the best single target option. Empowered Proximity would be your 4+ targets AoE option, or Superior Battle Potion of Agility in general if you cannot be bothered to have these 2 sets of potions on you. The food, I mean, feasts are usually the guild's choice when raiding, but the more gear you get, the more agility will lose strength, so replacing it with Biltong will be better in the end. If you enjoy playing Demon Hunter, man, we have a lot more DPS guides out there, especially melee ones. You might check out the playlist that's gonna pop somewhere over here, and you should be good to go. Also, big shout out and huge thank you to all of our Patreons and our Twitch subs and all of our Discord community, but especially our Patreons, because they make a lot of this stuff possible. Thank you so much, guys. It means the world to us. And hey, if you ever wanted to become a Patreon, you can see the details in the description of the video. There's also a Teespring link there with a couple of Marcelian&Online merchandise. It's really, really awesome. Thank you once again, Kibo, for all of the feedback and help for the guide. And with that, I want to thank you for watching the video. See you very, very, very soon. Take care.
Never thought I'd meet someone